Just a few little housekeeping things before I ask Callum to start recording. Well, good evening, everyone. Welcome to our meeting. First of all, happy St. David's Day, especially to Angela, our resident Welsh member. Hope you're having a lovely St. David's Day in current lockdown conditions. Also, just welcome to Catherine, who is our new administrator. What's the role we used to call Anne? God, that's really bad. That's just
Clark.
And Clark, thank you, Clark, our new Clark, and we're really excited, and you're very welcome to be joining us. As Catherine is obviously new to the role, there might be points where she just might want to stop and just get us to clarify some of the things that we're explaining, in case she's unaware of some of the terminology. And I know in Sacre we have various acronyms we sometimes use, and even for me as an RS specialist, it took me a while to get my head around some of the acronyms. So yeah, just be mindful of that as well. Before we sort of go into, well, actually, if we start with apologies first of all, I've had none, but I do have some news to share with you all shortly. Beth, Emily and Catherine, I don't know if anybody sent any of you any apologies.
Yeah, have Philip Hobday and Paris Finnegan said that something's happened at school, so she might be able to join later, but chances are she won't be able to join us. Okay,
thank you. And it is with real sadness I have to tell you all that Michael has sadly resigned with immediate effect from the Sacre, for a number of reasons. So after many years of chairing and being a really active member of the Sacre, he has made the decision to step back. So he wrote me a letter, and I will respond to him shortly on behalf of everyone. And if anybody does have any sort of comments or wishes that they would like me to put into the letter to Michael, then please do. Beth, I know you've had a conversation with Michael. I don't know if there's anything you'd like to add.
Yes, I have. Michael goes back with us a long way, and in fact is still in touch with Colin James, who was the original chairman of Sacre when the borough changed to being a unitary authority, which I think was about 1997. And so we've got a continuous lifeline right back to the beginning. Colin was also chairman of the Berkshire Sacre when Berkshire County Council was in place. So people come onto this committee and stay a long time. And I think we've got a lot to be grateful to Michael for. He's found the last year with technology quite difficult. And so that's been the end of him, really. But I do keep in contact with him. In fact, I have a regular meeting with him for coffee. So it'd be nice when we get back to doing that in person. But he's well, he's got lots to do, and he's been well looked after.
Thank you, Beth. Anju?
Yeah, All I like to say is add on to what Beth is saying, that reinforce that actually we really appreciate what he's done for Sacre in the last however many years he's been with us, and he will be sadly missed. His input was great, and we did move forward a lot while he was there.
Thank you.
Just like to sort of add that.
Thank you. Catherine, can you just make sure within our minutes that we do, just as a committee, just record our sort of huge thanks to Michael for all he has done over the number of years he's been on Sacre, and as chair, and just reiterating what Angie was saying in terms of how he did move the Sacre forward. And when I took over as chair, it was definitely an easier job for me because he'd done so much. So yeah, we are very much grateful. David.
Thank you. I don't want to say we need to thank Michael, and I agree with that. But if he's leaving a vacancy, is there anyone, or how do we fill that?
Yeah, so it's just going to come on to that shortly. So he is a member of Group C. No, it's fine. He's a member of Group C. So it will be someone within that kind of education area. So it could be a primary colleague, a secondary colleague, a member of the university. So we will get onto that shortly. Beth.
Yes, I just wanted to say that he has notified his sponsoring body. He's part of the group of unions.
Sorry, can I interrupt? I'm going to have to dial out and dial back in because I keep on losing you. So if you could just hold on for 1 second, and I'll dial
We'll
back
talk
in.
amongst ourselves.
Okay. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, he's been in touch with the unions, so he doesn't think they'll replace him. So afterwards, that is up to us.
Okay. Angela, does Wales come out of lockdown before England?
We don't know yet.
Has it not been released yet?
No, I think we're having an announcement in, I think it's a fortnight's time now. I've lost track, but yeah, we haven't got the roadmap, which isn't the roadmap in Wales yet. So.
You haven't got any daffodils around?
No, I haven't. I've got some in my garden.
Share my daffodils with everyone.
Yes, I think you should.
My Welsh friends who live down the road, they sort of dropped some at the doorstep this morning.
I have got some on my kitchen table too, so I should have brought them back. I'm not going to say anything about the rugby.
Good.
I don't know if everyone feels the same, but I mean, this lockdown I personally found quite hard, but quite excited that we've got a potential sort of date where we can all get together, and it'll be good. Catherine, you're back with us. Are everything okay technology-wise for you?
It keeps on cutting in and out, but I'm happy just to go through the video. So I'll take down as many notes as I can, but I'll use the video, I think.
Okay. All right. So as Beth said, Michael has reached out to his union, and it's unlikely they will replace him, but we don't know. But we'll obviously keep all members posted in terms of membership of Group C. So our last meeting was the 9th of November. We'll go through matters arising shortly. I think some of them will come up throughout the course of the meeting. I hope you had an opportunity to read Anne's last set of minutes. Can I have somebody just to propose the minutes for a true reflection? Thank you, David. And somebody to second them, please. And Christine to second. Thank you. Sorry, just bear with me. So in terms of matters arising, like I said, I'll go through some of them, and some of them will be throughout the meeting this evening. So 3A, we've got members to let Catherine know of links to places of worship. I assume that's ongoing. Catherine, I don't know if you'd like to, and Catherine also 3B, it says to investigate links on mindfulness and CBT. Catherine, I don't know if you want to add anything to that.
Yeah, there were a couple of things that did come up actually from that one. Kind of through a couple of things that our school are using. So we've linked into the National College. I don't know if anyone else uses that. and there is some mental health understanding and supporting. And there's also on there something that I'm sure Angela's aware of. There's actually is a slightly off from the wellbeing, but there's actually there's one from Lap Laycock, Courageous Conversations Discussing Diversity in RE, which is a really good. So the National College has got a lot of good stuff on there. Now, I think a school has to kind of log into that, or so. I mean, I'm obviously on Sacre through a place of worship, but I've got two hats on, kind of thing. But so I don't have to pay for any of that. So I'm assuming that schools kind of sign up for the National College, but that's some really good wellbeing and mental health stuff on there. And the other thing that I'm currently doing, OLT training, supporting wellbeing and mental health in schools. That's a really good course. That's much longer. The others are kind of webinars or hour-and-a-half things that you can dip into. This one is kind of a 12-week. But there's a good link on there, which some really nice resources. If anyone's already dipped in, it's annafreud.org, and it's the Anna Freud National Centre for Children and Families. There are loads of resources on there for schools, primary and secondary, for staff. It's a really comprehensive site. So that's worth kind of flagging up, I think, as well.
Thank you, Catherine, for sharing those. Anna Freud, interesting as well.
Do you want me to pop that? Shall I type it in the chat, or do you want me to?
Yeah, you could do actually, and then people, if they want to have a look at it, they can do so towards the end of the meeting, or then they've got it there. Thank you. Item 3C, membership. Stephen, Philip and Beth to approach contacts. I have to be honest, I haven't done that. Again, given the ongoing pandemic, it's just really difficult to sort of get into contact or get into with schools. Beth? You're muted, Beth.
I did. I spoke to a couple of teachers that I had in mind. Both said currently no, teaching online and teaching in person and trying to mix and match was just enough to do. So I haven't asked anyone else.
I return to work in April, so I'll have a bit more sort of capacity then to start sort of reaching out to see if we can find any secondary teaching members who are possibly interesting, or primary colleagues as well. And when we next speak to Philip, we can ask if he has approached any members. 3D, State Resource Platform idea, Stephen's State Resource idea to the Hub meeting. I don't think I mentioned that, Beth, when we were at the Hub. I don't think we spoke about Hub. No, I will take that. So if we just do that as a action for the next meeting, if that's all right, Catherine, thank you. And finally, 3E, members to send information to Beth regarding IT provision for pupils. Beth, I don't know if you have any updates on that. Go on, Beth.
I need to do a course on pushing the right button. No, I haven't heard from anyone. I understand things are getting better, but there are still pupils without IT access. I'm a trustee of the United Charities in Wokingham, and they are looking at putting some money by way of schools. And in fact, I think they're talking to schools at the moment about putting a fund together to meet the need that schools still have.
Okay, thank you. The next item, 3E, is members to let Emily know if they have any ideas they'd like to contribute to a project. Emily, I wonder if that will possibly come up in Sacre Projects, item 7.
Yeah, I was going to say that, Stephen, yeah.
Thank you. But Emily, I'm going to pass over to you anyway, because item 4 is spring term. How are things for Wokingham schools? So over to you, Emily.
Okay, yeah, well, thanks, Stephen. I'm very conscious that there are several people in the meeting that work in schools and will know much better than I do how things have been for schools and how things are currently. But I will just try and give a bit of an overview based on what I know, and hopefully I'll get things more or less right. So obviously in January it was a very difficult start to the term for schools because they thought they were going back to school, and then there was the government announcement on the first day of term to say that children weren't going to come back to school and it was going to be remote learning. So schools very quickly had to set up their remote learning provision, which I think was done brilliantly last half term, and the quality of what schools were offering was really quite amazing in many cases. And it was challenging because schools had two systems going on. They did have some children coming into school, their vulnerable children, their key worker children, and in some cases, some schools had quite a high number of children actually coming into school, as well as teachers running their remote learning provision. And some schools were doing a lot of live lessons. Some schools were doing recorded lessons. Most schools had some element of live interaction with children, though, and teachers were working incredibly hard to deliver that high quality remote provision. Some schools had a rota where teachers would come into school some of the time to be with the key worker and vulnerable children provision, and then work from home other times. So they were really running two systems. There were still cases, obviously there were still staff and children testing positive for the virus, and schools having to do the contact tracing and work out which children and bubbles needed to isolate. So I think staff were working incredibly hard last half term. Of course, what schools are now preparing for is for fully reopening from next Monday, and that means all primary children are expected to attend school from Monday full time. Secondary is slightly different because all secondary students have to be tested 3 times in school a few days apart before they start coming into school full time. I think some secondary schools have started that testing this week, others will start next week. So there'll be a bit of a slower start for secondary students, but once that testing is done, they will all be in. And after that, there's going to be twice weekly testing for children and staff at home. And I think it was announced just over the weekend or today that families of school-going children can also get tests to use twice a week. So there'll be a lot of testing going on, and people having to report to schools, obviously, the results of their tests, and then the contact tracing will have to be done again, and organising isolation. So there will still be a need for remote learning, perhaps for individual children at times, or for bubbles that are having to self-isolate. So there will be very much still some remote learning that will be needed. Arrangements are going to be similar to the autumn term in terms of what's happening in school. So children and staff will be working in bubbles. Schools will be thinking about ventilation. They'll be thinking about teaching in a socially distanced manner. There are likely to be staggered starts and ends to the school day and lunch times to avoid crowding. Assemblies and staff meetings are likely to be done remotely. There'll be enhanced cleaning going on in schools. And staff are going to be working very hard to identify the gaps in children's learning and to help them to fill those gaps and to make really good progress, as well as being very mindful of well-being, of course, of both staff and children. We know that, of course, there's no GCSE exams. All primary statutory assessment is cancelled, but there will still be lots of teacher assessment going on, partly to identify children's gaps and also to assess where children have got to at the end of the year. So secondary schools, teachers are going to be providing grades to exam boards instead of GCSE exams, and there'll also be end of year primary assessment as well. So generally, schools are going to be a long way from being back to normal next week. And I think it's going to be a long time before things are completely back to normal. I'm sure that teachers are going to be very glad and children very glad to be back together in school. But there will also be anxieties, I'm sure, from staff and children as well. In terms of visitors in schools, which might be relevant for Sacre members to know about, in the autumn term, the situation was that schools could have visitors, but of course they were trying to minimise those visitors as much as possible, and any visiting would have to be done in line with school risk assessments. And in my team, in the local authority, in the school improvement team, we are not planning to be able to visit schools again for, well, probably until September, and even then we'll have to review it. So I think in terms of Sacre members visiting schools, we wouldn't think that probably that would not be possible until at least the autumn term. So when we're thinking about our development plan for next year, that's something that we'll need to bear in mind, I think. So as I say, I hope I haven't missed out anything really important, but I might have done. But those are, I guess, the key points that I wanted to share. Thank you, Stephen.
Thank you, Emily. Does anybody have any questions? No. Thanks again, Emily. That was a really, really useful sort of update on where schools will be at. Beth.
Could I ask Linda how you're getting on? Are you allowed into school to carry on with your teaching?
No, just like Emily said, schools are being very careful and comes under risk assessment. So RE Inspired is not in school at all. So I'm finding schools are even really busy. I'm not getting supplies from schools either.
Catherine?
Yeah, can I just ask, I was talking to Nick Hudson, who's the minister at Wokingham Baptist Church, and we were talking earlier about the Easter experience, which is normally for all year sixes. Long story short, they were trying to work out doing something online, and it was just too complicated for the church teams even to get together to film things as they would normally do. I just wondered, as a Sacre, how and when we will be able to communicate to places of worship, you know, from Emily's perspective, when things might be open. So it might be September, but how will we be able to communicate that well to places of worship that, you know, contacts can be made? Otherwise, if it's left just to the school side, there's so much going on. It would be really nice if places of worship could be proactive in offering help and support rather than waiting for schools to catch up, you know, with they've got 1,000,001 things to do. So it's just that communication, actually. How do we do that with the places of worship?
Emily, have you got any thoughts?
No, it's a really good question, but I'm not sure what would be the best way of, or an easy and efficient way of doing that, Catherine. I don't suppose, through putting together the directory of places of worship, I don't suppose we've got sort of an email group of our contacts relating to the directory, have we?
I could easily create one. I mean, it wouldn't take much to put an email together. And I just think it would be really nice if, I think, to take the pressure off the schools of trying to catch up with, you know, yes, we'd like people to come in, to be able to do it the other way around, and for places of worship to say, we now understand that if it works with yourselves, we are now allowed in. How can we support you? So it's just getting that communication, isn't it, really, I think?
Julie, I can see your hands up within 2 seconds. I wonder if also that's something the hub possibly could do, because I think it's something that would benefit across sort of all of Berkshire. Yeah. So if Catherine, if you wouldn't mind making that as an action for Angela and myself to take to the hub, that we sort of suggest that maybe the hub sends out an email, and I think that would possibly be the best way. That's just my immediate thoughts. Julie.
Yeah, I was wondering if maybe that email could ask if we can't visit them, but we have got visitors coming via Teams. So we've got visitors for various subjects that we would normally invite into school that we're actually inviting to Teams meetings. So I wonder if it's worth asking these other places of worship, while we can't go to them, whether they would be prepared to have a Teams meeting visit.
Again, I think that's a really good idea, and I think that's something we can. I think the hub should do, if I'm being honest. Lisa?
Just to say, I've been doing assemblies on Zoom, so you know there might be some virtual access. I don't know, Linda, if they'd let you do something like that or record something. No. Okay. Obviously, it's a bit weird when you're doing it because it's not, you know, I'm asking questions but not hearing the answers. But it it's just been a way of sort of keeping that connection, which I would usually have had, weekly with the school where I'm a governor.
Hopefully with the roadmap and 21st of June, and as Emily was saying, hopefully in the autumn term and moving forward, things will open up a bit more. And with the vaccine rollout, we can try and be optimistic and positive that all of these sort of great ideas that we've got will hopefully we'll be able to do them. Are there any other? There's a couple of hands up. Oh, no, they've gone down. I saw a couple of hands just come up, but they've gone off my screen now, so I don't know who that was.
I think Shira might have her hand up, Stephen.
Yes, I can see it now. Thank you, Shira. Sorry.
Because because of what we do, sort of professionally, we've been doing a lot of Zoom with schools. Couple of them using Teams. We even did, it's amazing, we even did a couple during the time when schools were closed, which I was amazed. I thought it was going to be completely dead. And we had a couple of schools actually had us, because so many kids are actually in school, even though the schools are meant to be closed, they're not closed. And so they said, yes, please. And we had all these kids joining from home as well. In that case, the schools supplied the link. We normally would support but when the kids were participating from home, then the schools would do the link because of safeguarding. It was really amazing. A couple of times we would do recordings for them to put on YouTube to show to the kids at home. You have to be really creative. But certainly once schools come back in March, we're going to be chock-a-block. Zoom, 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 Zoom. There's a lot of interest in Zoom content, and it's something, to be honest, that I think could continue even past COVID, because it's just so easy.
Thank you, Shira. Catherine?
I just wanted to say, I mean, we've really appreciated in school assemblies online and all of the ways that places of worship have linked in with us. I think my initial comment was really following on from Emily's, thinking about autumn with any kind of visitors coming in. It was just kind of from how we communicate that. But I appreciate lots of people are already doing Zoom and Teams and lots of stuff's going on.
Yeah, I think obviously having access to that technology and Zoom is definitely powerful. But I think I get where you're coming from, Catherine. Actually, having the person physically come into school or the children physically going to a place, it's ever so slightly different. But it's definitely something I think I think the hub should do. Catherine and Shira, you both have your hands up. Have you got any other questions or comments? No. Okay. Thank you. So if we move on to, if there's no other questions or comments, no. So if we move on to item number 5, development plan, this is Angela and Emily.
I'm sorry, Angela, I'm just thinking it might be helpful if I share the development plan from the agenda pack. Shall I do that while you're talking?
Thank you. I think really this is quite a simple item this time around. So we've come to the end of the financial year, so to the end of our development plan for the year, which doesn't run concurrent with the academic year, but with the financial year. We've managed to hit everything that we've intended to. On the development plan, with just a few exceptions that have come about because of the pandemic. The Federation secondary training didn't go ahead this year, so that was something that was on our plan that we naturally couldn't contribute to. Members were just getting ready to go out and to visit schools and engage with schools, so it's really useful that we've just had that conversation and possibly put that on the agenda for next time, about how we can really support schools, perhaps by engaging with schools online ready for next year. We were all kind of raring to go, and we were putting plans in place to make those contacts and visits in schools, and then it came to a rather sudden halt when the pandemic came along. Everything else, I feel that we've achieved to a greater or lesser extent. There are some issues around membership. So I think the membership details were included in the pack, and Emily's just kindly put them on the screen here. We have tried to recruit a Buddhist to Group A, and we haven't been successful in that regard, I'm afraid. So if anybody does have any contacts among Buddhists in the community in Wokingham, then please do let us know, and we will try again. So we now have 2 teacher association teacher memberships to fill after the news tonight. So ideally, we would like to, even though it's not in our constitution, it would be good to get another secondary teacher on board if possible, and another colleague from primary or secondary as well. So Emily and I have had some chats and discussions about that. We've already engaged with Julian Bushell to see if we can get a secondary teacher on board, but that hasn't been successful. But we have had a new head of RE make contact with us from one of the schools in Wokingham. So that's a warm contact that we might now explore to see if we can recruit that teacher as a member to Sacre, which would be really useful. So if anybody knows of anybody who would like to join Sacre as a teacher, I mean, importantly, not all of the teachers in Group C have to be directly connected to teaching RE. Although some members do need to be teachers of RE, they can be teachers of other subjects as well in secondary schools. So thinking ahead to the coming year, Emily's going to talk a little bit about the conceptual understanding project that we're going to introduce to the primary network with some secondary teachers involved later on this month. So your thoughts around our plans for the coming year would be very, very welcome in that respect. And I think, we've already touched upon the idea of how we're going to provide that support for schools now in the kind of the new normal context. There's no absolute guarantees that schools will be comfortable going into September coming September to have visitors present in school. So how can we make use of technology and the online platforms that we have in order to still support schools, engage with schools, and also for schools to support Sacre members as well to become more confident and more aware of what's going on in RE classrooms around the county as well. So Emily has put the development plan on the board, and if there's any questions around that, and please do feel free to ask. If there's anything I've missed out, Emily, please.
Yeah, I was just going to say, Angela, the only other thing in the development plan we haven't been able to do is as part of our support for secondary schools, we were going to contribute to the Secondary Federation Inset Day. Yeah. And I heard recently that day was actually cancelled this year. It didn't take place. We normally give some funding so that secondary schools can book speakers for their Inset Day, but the Inset Day was cancelled this year, and I've also heard that it's been cancelled for next year. So when we come to talk about our development plan for next year, and we're thinking about support for secondary schools, we need to bear in mind that conference, that Inset Day, is again not happening. Shall I just quickly go through the budget update, which hopefully you've all had a chance to have a look at. So I've just added on the final column, which is spending from November to February. And the upshot is that our total spends up to the end of February were £3,162 roughly. We know that we have got a bit more spending to come out of this financial year. So we've obviously got the costs relating to this meeting today, which will be about £300. We've got a network meeting coming up later this month, and there'll be some costs related to that. We haven't yet been invoiced for our £900 contribution to the hub, but I assume that we will be. So we've got about £1,450 worth of spending to come during March. But by my calculations, adding together that and that, we'll have around about £2,000 still left in the budget for this financial year. So Angela and I had our usual pre-meeting just before this meeting, and we were talking about this, and Angela suggested a few ideas based on what she knows is available through her work with RE Today, and a few options that she had were RE Today are currently offering training on a resource called Understanding Christianity, which Angela speaks very highly of. They're also offering some training on some resources around anti-racist RE. That is, that could be a cross-phase training. So Angela, I don't know if you want to say any more about either of those two options, and then maybe we could ask Sacre members for any ideas they've got about how we might spend that £2,000 each left over.
I'm not coming to you as a salesperson for RE Today. I'm just thinking about some of the things that we do have available as an organisation. So the Understanding Christianity is a resource that can help develop theological understanding of Christianity as a kind of narrative that develops over the child's education, and there are subsidised packages available for that, and that's something that we are working really hard to take forward into schools. It's for primary and secondary schools, and the training comes as a primary package and a secondary package. So if that was something that Sacre members are interested in, I can find out more for you and come back to you on that. Anti-racist RE, I'm going to talk about in the updates, but there are a number of free resources that are now available online for schools in the form of units of work, various teaching resources for primary and secondaries, videos and so on, that we have worked on at RE Today with the with free churches. And there can be, we can provide training around those resources. My colleague Laylock is the person to be developing these resources, and would be able to deliver that training. That's something that we could that we could consider. The other option as well is that if there was money that needed to be used up, there could be the option of offering some schools NATRI memberships, with which they would get the RE Today package, the magazine, and the curriculum books and so on. There are various packages that schools are finding quite useful at the moment, and well, they always find them useful, but particularly at the moment where there is perhaps some extra difficulties around coming to CPD and so on. So there are three options that we can consider if if Sacre did want to spend some of the money in their budget, with us. So just to let members know what's available.
Okay, thank you. Beth, before I come to you, I'm not sure if everyone's been able to see the chat. There's just been a few questions there. So Shira has mentioned as an idea that she knows a Muslim woman who lives in the area who possibly could speak to secondary schools who are doing GCSE, looking at Christianity and Islam. Andrew, you asked exactly the same question that I was going to ask. Can we not carry the money forward? And Emily has said, unfortunately not. And Andrew, I agree with your point as well. we would have spent this money if it wasn't for COVID. Emily, do you know if, as Andrew has rightly said, will the local authority not make any concessions because of this?
I mean, usually the position is, and as far as I know, it's the same this year, that in exceptional circumstances you can carry forward. And, you know, you could argue that the pandemic is certainly an exceptional circumstance, but you would have to, I think, make a case for how you're going to spend the money the following year. So we would need to say exactly what we're carrying forward the money for. And I would recommend that it would be better, Angela and I were talking about this before, and it could be that we plan something that isn't actually going to happen until the new financial year, but we could pay for it in March and get the money out of our budget this financial year. So, for example, if we were going to spend it on some training, the training might not happen till the summer term, but if we could pay the trainer up front, then we've spent the money this financial year. So if there is any way we can spend it this financial year, it would make life simpler, and I wouldn't have to have arguments and write papers and business cases and things like that on carrying forward money. But I can look into whether we could carry forward money if we really can't work out how to spend it.
Okay. Shira, I assume the year end and same financial year, so tax year, is when I'm assuming the year ends. And Andrew, is this going to impact next year's budget? Again, that's a really good question. Will we?
No, we don't think
funding?
so, because we can make the case that, as you said, Stephen, we would have spent more of the money had it not been for the pandemic, and I'm sure that will be understood. So as far as I know, we've been allocated the same amount next year.
Thank you. Beth.
Thank you, Stephen. We haven't spoken about the films that we've made at the Hub, and they are all finished now. I think all the reading's done, and some of us have had a look. Have you had a look at them, Angela?
Yeah, some of them I have. Yeah, not all of them.
Yeah, and I think all the reading's finished. I'm not sure when the next Hub meeting is, and there may be some more cost involved with them as well. The plan from the Hub is that they'll go national after the Sacre conference, and we can offer them free. They're really excellent, really good value for money. But we wanted to do a launch conference for that. So I'm sure that the people at the Hub would hold some money towards that, as well as our 900 contribution. We would have done the conference.
That shortly, Beth.
Yeah.
There's an agenda item where we're going to go through it.
Yeah, okay. I'll leave that now then.
So I guess maybe if we talk about the Hub project shortly, and then we can have a short discussion around money and what we think we're going to do with it before the end of the financial year. So we'll just park that for a minute, and you can have like a little think to yourselves whilst we're going through some of the other items in terms of what we're going to do with that money. And also, like I said, once we've gone through the Hub updates, that might give us a bit more sort of clarity as well. So Angela, if we just do item 6, feedback from teacher networks, and I think you've already gone through the training opportunity.
Yes, so there have been 3 events to report back to Sacre on. So the first one was on November the 16th, and that was the Gcse training event. Unfortunately, we only had 4 teachers attend, but they were very positive about what was delivered. Emily says that she feels that they all appreciated the course. There are a couple of reasons that we've considered why, in terms of why so few teachers attended, and one of those was a lack of foresight on our part, really, because there was a CPD running that week for one of the exam boards as well. So we are thinking about maybe changing our timing of that particular course, and perhaps even offering it again in the summer term, with a view to teachers getting back into the mindset of teaching, for the pupils to be entered into the exam ready for next academic year. But still, it was a course that was appreciated by the few people who did attend. So certainly worth thinking about delivering again, I think. So the second event out of 3 was the RE network meeting for primary teachers, which was on the 1st of December. 15 teachers attended, and again the feedback was really positive, and teachers found that very useful. And the RE subject leader training, which was also for primary teachers, took place on the 21st of January. That was really well attended. There were 20 delegates to that, and again the feedback was very positive. In our pre-meeting today, Emily and I have talked about formalising the process for feedback, because not all of the teachers fed back, and at the time it was acknowledged that it can be quite difficult to take a register on Teams and to find ways of formalising the feedback. So we are going to put in place some measures to specifically ask for structured feedback in future courses. But I think that we have done really well to keep those to keep that provision going, for teachers to be still positive and engaging in good numbers in primary at least. And I think the thing to think about now in terms of development is how we can get more secondary teachers engaged and on board with what we provide for them.
Thank you. Any questions? No? Okay, so Emily, Sacre Projects is the next item, you and Angela. I don't know if you've touched on any of that.
No, we haven't talked about this specific project, although I did mention it briefly under AOB at the last meeting. Mm-hmm. So a project that Angela and I are working on is around the key concepts in RE. A booklet was produced in Wokingham last academic year for many subjects on the curriculum, but RE was one of the subjects that was missing. And the project was around, it brought together primary and secondary teachers to talk together about what were the key concepts in the different subjects that children needed to understand by the end of year 6 in order to be ready to make the most of the curriculum at Key Stage 3 in that subject. And the idea was that that would help with transition between primary and secondary and help to make that transition more seamless and avoid that dip in achievement that often happens between primary and secondary. It would help primary colleagues to plan their curriculum. If everyone is agreed, these are the big ideas that children need to understand by the end of year 6, then we can plot how those ideas are going to be developed in children from foundation stage to year 6. And secondary schools would have a really clear idea of where the children are starting at the beginning of the Key Stage 3 curriculum. So we produced a booklet that has a page for many of the subjects on the curriculum saying this is what the national curriculum says children have to learn, and going above and beyond that, these are the big ideas, the key concepts that we in Wokingham have agreed children need to understand by the end of year 6. So we've been very aware that RE is missing from that. So what we're planning is that at the coming RE primary network meeting, which is on the 23rd of March, and which we would very much welcome Sacre members to join us at, we've invited secondary teachers to join us as well. And we're planning to work on a page to add to that booklet on RE. And obviously with RE, we're going to be referring to the local syllabus rather than to the national curriculum. But the process will be very much the same, that it will be primary and secondary teachers talking together and agreeing what we think are the key ideas. So hopefully at the network meeting, we'll come up with a draft of ideas, which Angela will then take away and work on, and we'll share a draft which we'll hope to finalise at the following network meeting in the summer term. So it'd be really great to have Sacre members involved in that process. If any of you would like to come to that network meeting, it's at 4 o'clock on the 23rd of March. And if you would like to be sent the meeting link, you could either email Catherine Newport, our clerk, or the address we usually give to teachers is schools.teams@wokingham.gov.uk. I'll put that in the chat so you've all got that email address, but you could just email Catherine Newport and she will send you out an invitation. Thanks, Stephen.
Thank you. That sounds really useful and exciting, actually. I think it'll be really good for all of our sort of colleagues to have copies of that. So the next item, and sorry, anybody has any questions for Emily? No. So the next item is a hub update, which will be Angela, myself, and Beth. Oh, sorry, hang on. Andrew, sorry.
Yeah, sorry. I mean, sounds like a very sort of a good project that Emily's just described. Emily, is this one that's going to cost us money and that we're looking for maybe to spend some of the money on?
That's a good question, Andrew. We didn't spend any money when we were working on the other subjects, but it could be that there's potential for bringing teachers together for some kind of work around. I can give that some thought. Off the top of my head, I can't think of an activity that would cost money, but it's worth thinking about. I mean, certainly we were thinking of budgeting for some of Angela's time just to follow up on the discussions and work on finalising the document based on the discussions we've had. But beyond that, I can't think of any costs off the top of my head. But
no, because I mean, you know, we're going to consider by the end of this meeting, I think, that how are we going to spend that £2,000, and maybe that is something that we can put in the pot to consider is Angela's time to do that work that does need to be done, follow up from that meeting.
Yeah, certainly.
So, you know, sort of when we talk about that, sort of what sort of figure are we talking about?
Well, it depends. I mean, I shouldn't imagine it would take that much of Angela's time. To a certain extent, it depends how far we get in the meeting. But if it was half a day of Angela's time, let's say, which I would imagine would be the very most it would be, that's £250. So it's not a lot of money we're talking about.
Yeah, but the thing is that at least it's showing that where we can spend that money, because when we come to look at it, we're going to have to consider have things in the pot to consider, really. Thank you.
Yeah, thanks, Andrew.
Thank you. Any other questions? Beth, do you mind just leading the bit about Sacre and hub meeting? I'm just going to say good night to my two little ones.
Oh, give them a hug from us.
I will do.
Yes, the hub has met quite regularly through the lockdown because we've been producing not only the films, but also the guidance that goes along with it. And it goes right through the primary age group. I don't know if anybody's had a chance to look at any. Emily, have you seen any?
I haven't, Beth. No, I haven't. As far as I know, I haven't been sent links or materials to look at, but I would be interested to see them.
Yeah, okay, we'll see if we can get some links. I think they're available now for us as Sacre members to look at, but we'd need to check that. There may be further costs because we wanted to do some more films. We've got a brilliant filmmaker who puts a lot of work in them. They are very professional, which is really nice to see. They'll be a really useful tool for our primary school colleagues to use. It may be that if they're a real success and we need to talk to the people who gave us the grant for it and the NASCA conference, that we may do more, certainly for primary, but maybe for secondary as well.
When we do get the link, they, as Beth said, they're really good quality. I mean, I've occasionally used TrueTube as a teacher, and TrueTube is useful, but these are specific for the locally agreed syllabus. Angela, am I right in thinking that the hub has a bit of a carry forward as well? It has a bit more spare than what we expected, again, because of the pandemic?
Yes, they do. And I think there's a plan to approach a Catholic church in Windsor with that money. And possibly then if there's any funding left to look at an Orthodox church or an Orthodox synagogue. Yeah,
I'd say the work of the hub this year, given the pandemic, of Anne Andrews and Angela and David Rees has been really good. And actually the fact that they've been able to do all of this during the pandemic is credit to the work of the hub. And I think Beth and myself, and we're big supporters of the hub, and I think we'll obviously continue supporting the hub as long as all the other local authorities can afford it. Angela, I don't know if there's anything you want to add about the hub that Beth or myself might have missed.
Just that the future plans are to host the resource on the NatTre website, so it'll be alongside other really good teaching materials for RE. So the latest West Hill project to be hosted there was one for anti-bullying in RE, which if you just Google anti-bullying resources NatTre, then you'll be able to get a feel for how the resources that produced will end up looking.
Sorry, Angela, to interrupt. Can I just ask everyone to turn their microphones off? There's a bit of feedback coming through, and I don't know if it's just me, but Angela, I can hear you like quite a few times.
Is that any better?
Yeah, I don't think we should. I think somebody, maybe their mic was on possibly, or thank you, everyone.
Did you want me to say that again? That'd be helpful.
Yeah, please. Thank you.
Just that the videos are going to be hosted on the NatTre website. So they're not there yet, but if you were to just Google anti-bullying resources NatTre, then you'll be able to get a feel for how those resources are going to sit on the NatTre website. It'll be a really good free resource, and it'll be used more widely than in Wokingham and in Berkshire, because there'll be lots of visitors to the NatTre website. I was going to mention also in the Sacre update, but I'll mention it now. There's so many overlaps on the agenda tonight that we have actually been asked to present at the Sacre conference on the 24th of May, the West Hill project, and so that will be really good in raising awareness of what we've done and making those resources more widely available across the country as well. So that will be really positive, I think.
Thank you. I'm going to be with you in 2 seconds. Angela, did we mention about the launch of the videos? And that's going to be a virtual launch.
The virtual launch is planned for the 28th of April, depending on whether the resources can all be uploaded, and there are some sort of intricate matters with regards to copyrights and permissions and so on that need to be sorted out. But pending the resources going up on the NatTre website, it's planned to take place on the 28th of April. It'll be an online event. It'll start at 4 p.m. and I think it'll finish at 5:30, but it will be available as a recording for those who can't make it.
I think there was discussion at the hub about possibly pushing it later, so when we could actually have a physical sort of face-to-face meeting. But then we also felt that actually a lot of work and time has gone into this project, and the quality of what has been produced is really good. So I think the decision was made that it'll be, as Angela said, an online event and then a recording available later for those that can't see it, with the view that when we can all finally be in a room together, we will have like a get together and a celebration and a discussion around the project. Andrew, is there anything else you'd like to mention from Hub?
I can't think of anything right now. It'll come up in a later item.
So this kind of brings us, ladies and gents, to the point where we need to discuss what we're doing with this money. And Beth has mentioned that the Hub possibly has some ideas. I've noticed, Angie, you've logged back in, and you sort of mentioned the work that Emily and Angela. There's probably about £250 there. Angela, there's the RE Today ideas that you've suggested. Julie, you put in the chat box a possible idea. As I said, you're using the Understanding Christianity, using some of the Berkshire curriculum resources, but it's not covering enough of the other faiths. So possibly could some of the money be used to address some of those problems? Catherine.
Sorry to come off mute. Just a quick idea. Bearing in mind schools have kind of struggled over the last year, I don't know how you do it. Is it worth kind of offering or putting it out there to ask if there are schools that would like to be able to get resources for RE? It's the one area that schools just don't spend money on for kind of resourcing well. That's kind of a big question to ask, though, for the area. I appreciate that, but I just wondered is there some sort of resource that schools could use that would enhance their RE teaching, either in primary or secondary? I don't know how you'd kind of pose that question, and I don't know, just a thought.
It's difficult, isn't it? Because we only have 31 days to spend the money, and getting responses from teachers at the moment, I think, could be quite difficult. But I do think it's a good idea.
Something we've just, I'm just thinking, it's linked to RE Today. It's the assessment in RE that keeps coming up, is how we assess RE. And I know there's a book that RE Today have produced that I think I look forward to our assessment team that we just buy it anyway. So we've already got it. But I'm just thinking things like that, would it help schools assess? I don't know.
Mm-hmm. Beth?
Could we purchase some resources that we could hold centrally? And believe me, I don't know where, because we seem to have lost access to the Berkshire resources that were held by Bracknell, the artefacts.
I hadn't realised we lost access to those.
Well, nobody seems to know where they are.
Because they were at East Hampstead, weren't they? And then
yes, and they've sold that now, haven't they? But it might be worth asking Bracknell what's happened to them, because they belonged to everyone, not just to Bracknell. But it could be that there's some literature or something that schools need that we could hold centrally or supply to each school. Angela may know of something that would be really helpful.
Who, though, the only thing about, I like the idea, Beth, and I know we've discussed it before, but it's who would, like you said, where would it be stored? Who would administer it? And it's all the ongoing costs of all of that. I know I'm being sort of doom and gloom, but I'm just trying to sort of be realistic with. And if Bracknell Forest still have it, and if they're still for everyone, then all those resources should be there. Angela, the training that you were mentioning, how would that be delivered? Would it be people sign up to it, or would it be like, right, we're doing this?
Well, it's flexible. So what lots of other Sacres tend to do, if they go for RE Today, an RE Today training day, for example, they will we will set a date, either do the training face to face, or there'll be an online offer. And then it's up to Sacre then what they want to do in terms of marketing that training, more widely than in Wokingham. And some Sacres tend to monetize it and get and make money from it to put into their budget for the following year, or it could be something that is provided free of charge to just Wokingham teachers, for example. And there's a whole range of possibilities. So we can offer pre-recorded webinars, we can do live webinars, or we can offer training face to face in the old-fashioned way, depending on the on what the pandemic will allow, really. So there's a whole range of different ways of getting training from RE Today. I mean, with regards to the anti-racist training, that's happening in a lot of Sacres across England, and the uptake for that is really strong, and that can be delivered cross phase, as well as to just primaries and to secondaries. it might be something that could be considered across the other local authorities, across the hub. So the possibilities are endless. I mean, we can do something that's bespoke.
I was going to ask. I mean, just an immediate, and again, it's just a quick thought that's just come to my head. Is there stuff that you possibly training for us as Sacre members?
I mean, that's a possibility. That could work if we knew exactly what was, the end goal for that. And so myself and my colleagues are, experienced working with Sacres, and they have lots of experience across England. I've got experience in Wales as well. Sacres are quite different in Wales. So that could be something to explore as well. Like Emily says, it's not something that would have to be delivered, by the 31st of March. So I doubt that any of us would have the capacity to do that, or the tools within our means to be able to market it and get it delivered by then. But yeah, it could be something that's delivered further down the line. And it could be that we discuss, how we could tailor a training that comes with some resources as well. So yeah, it depends really what the client wants, and then we can go away and see if we've got somebody who's able to deliver that and and price it up. So
okay, thank you. Just before I come to Emily and Beth, Shira, your idea about using the lady, and this is just again me thinking as a secondary teacher, I really like the idea of it. However, with GCSEs being cancelled this year, and equally, I'm sure the government and the DfE will have to do something next year for all the year 10 kids who've missed out on so much face-to-face. I'm not sure if that would be a viable option this year. That's just sort of me thinking quickly. Julie has sort of suggested in the chat possibly some training around on the directory, which and a conference. I think a conference is a good idea, possibly for using the money. But for me, this is me thinking out loud, is I think a face-to-face conference. Catherine has said there has already been a conference has already taken place on the directory. Yes, it has. I remember actually. Beth, you had your hand up first.
Yes. Could I ask that the thoughts are put into an email to Angela, Emily, yourself, and maybe me, to work out what is best that we can book into place in the time that we've got left.
Okay, I'll come to that in 2 seconds. Beth, Emily, you were next.
Yeah, I was just going to say one solution might be, because there are various options for training that RE Today could offer. One option might be that we could commission RE Today to do some form of training for us that they could invoice us for during March without us necessarily pinning down exactly what form of training it would be, and that would just make sure we don't lose the money, and it would give us some more time to think about exactly whether that would be training for Sacre members or schools and what kind of training it would be, and all these brilliant ideas that people are having. Obviously we've got next year's development plan to discuss as well, and many of these ideas we might consider as part of our work during the next financial year if we're not going to use it for the money this financial year. Thank you.
Shira?
Should I approach her and put her in contact with the appropriate person? I mean, originally we had discussed the idea that I would help manage her, but I don't have time to be honest. I've got too much on. So for me to put you guys in contact, and then if you want to make some sort of tentative arrangement for next year, then you could say you want to use this money next year for this specific thing, which the schools have been begging for some years. We know that they want it. And then use that to justify, in terms of you have to have some specific thing you want to use the money for. That can be a thing. I mean, we're not talking about a huge amount of money anyway. If her rates are similar to ours, a few £100 probably cover it.
We've probably got about, with the 250, we were saying that would go to Angela, Emily, for sort of their work on their project. There's probably about 1,700 left.
Yeah, which would be enough to take her to every secondary school in Wokingham. There aren't that many.
Not all of them do. I know, for
ours.
example, Wangels don't do Islam. They do Hinduism and Christianity. So you're only talking about 5 secondary schools.
Yeah, it would probably be enough. So I mean, I could just put you in contact with her, give you a rough idea of, if you look at our website, you can see a sort of rough idea what reasonable charges would be based on what we do, and talk to her, see if you can work something out. Because she approached me that she was interested. Knows what we do. But I don't have time to manage her anyway, so
I don't think, and Andrew said we could use it and put it in the development plan. Yeah, I hear what we're saying, but within the 31 days that we've got left to spend this money, I don't think we can put that in the development plan without actually going through all the secondary schools to find out if they teach Islam, for example, because maybe they don't teach Islam. And to sort of say that actually we're allocating £1,700 for this woman to come and do some sort of training.
At the very least, sort of move it forward as an idea to explore it, because again, we're not talking about something, it actually doesn't cost as much as you think. So I'll put you in contact.
Can I ask, with all due respect, what's your day rate? So if you were doing a session, what would you, £200-300?
For a day, it would be come up to £300. But we've been doing it for years, and we have a huge reputation. And we go far away. So you know, but it's actually similar to the a supply teacher cost similar.
I do think potentially there's mileage in it for our secondary colleagues and support. I just don't know. And please, I mean, other people jump in if they've got sort of views and opinions on things. I don't know if it's something we could sort so quickly. And I'm not so sure I'd feel comfortable saying we're going to allocate X amount of money for that, especially given that we've had conversations about when people could go into schools. I know you can do things over Zoom, but I equally, this is just me personally as a teacher, I do feel things are lost over Zoom. And I go back to Catherine's point earlier in the meeting, that actually physically getting someone in school, I think is better. We don't know when that's going to happen. David, your hand went up. I don't know if you had anything you wanted to.
Muted, right? I was just going to say, I think looking at Angela's idea and saying, well, we could use this money in the next year, certainly there, if we let them have it now, and they can design some courses. So otherwise, I mean, we've only got 31 days, as you said, 30 days, in fact, to get sorted out where it's going. And it's going to take time to do anything else. Whereas if we do that, we know that we will use it over the coming year. If we put that money forward for that, it will be valuable in the coming year to primary, to secondary schools, and to us.
Shira, I really like the idea, and I think it's something we could definitely engage with our secondary colleagues. I don't feel we've got enough time to do it. And if I'm being honest with everyone, I don't like that we're in the situation that we've got only 30 days to decide on roughly how we're going to spend £2,000.
And also in terms of, if I were managing her, I would send her to one school, see how it worked, feedback, because like you get better at it as you do it. I mean, Julie Siddiqui, if you know her. She lives in Slough, right? So which is near Wokingham. So and I know she's not, I know she's moderate and all that, so, but I mean, I could just put you in contact, and
I've got her details.
Really, because every year it seems like there's money in the Sacre budget, and it's like, what can we use to spend it on? And why not do something which schools have actually asked for? Because I know they want it.
I think it's something that we will, if we put it down as an item moving forward, for possibly next year, it's potentially a way that we could support our secondary colleagues. Can I make a suggestion? Because I'm just looking at the time, it's 7:30, and we could be here for hours discussing how we're going to spend £2,000. If we take Beth's idea, that if everybody has any suggestions and ideas, that they email to Angela, Emily, myself, and Beth, and with everyone's permission, we will sort of, the four of us, decide how that money is going to be spent, and then email everyone. That's what I would suggest. If anyone has objections to that, please do raise them now, and if not, then we'll assume as a Sacre that's what we'll do moving forward. And please rest assured, we're not going to sort of say we're going to do X, Y, and Z and spend the money ridiculously, because it is a lot of money, and it's actually things that we can do really good things with. And as David said, if we do commission RE today or whichever another company, then I think we can get some really good training for our secondary and primary colleagues, and even for ourselves. Okay, so I take that because nobody's raised a hand or an objection, that they're happy with that. So please do any other suggestions, email Emily, Angela, Beth and myself. We will sort of look at all those suggestions, and then we will sort of make some decisions about how best to spend that money. And hopefully next year COVID would have gone and we'll be able to plan better. And Shira will definitely take your ideas. And I've got Julie's contact details, and we'll get in contact with our secondary colleagues and see if there's something we can offer. Okay, Emily, over to you. Item 9, final annual report.
This is an incredibly quick item, and it's literally really just what it says on the agenda pack, that everyone was emailed out the final version of the report in December. And in case you didn't get it for any reason, it's available on the hub on the Sacre page. So hopefully everyone has had a chance to look at that.
Thank you. Angela, we've touched on a few of these already, but I don't know if there's any other extra. And I suppose we can run item 10 and 11 together. Any sort of national or Sacre updates?
Yeah, I've included the updates within the agenda pack, so I don't want to keep everybody here going through every item in that, point by point. So we all know that that's one of the main points. We all know that there are not going to be GCSE and A-level examinations since time of writing. That decision has now been made. There is going to be subject knowledge enhancement funding available for RE. It's one of the few subjects for which there will be, and so that's positive news, even though the bursaries have been cut for virtually every other subject, including RE actually, but there is this subject knowledge enhancement. So hopefully that will help teachers who want to teach RE in secondary schools, who haven't got a first degree in the subject, to get up to speed and be able to teach the subject well. And also support those who are non-specialists in schools to enable them to be able to teach the subject with confidence and with the right knowledge to be able to do so. And a number of symposiums here that are going ahead shortly. There is a 24-hour residential symposium that is being proposed for the autumn term next academic year. There are only 25 places available for that, and there does need to be quite a high level of commitment for anybody who wants to apply for that. There will be pre-tasks set, but the benefit will be that that anybody who is chosen to go on that symposium will have talks from experts and leading practitioners, and they will also have the chance to publish something after the event to make a real contribution to curriculum design in RE as we move to possibly religion and worldviews model. There's some news about the NATRA executive that has been confirmed since time of writing. So Katie Freeman is a primary school teacher, and she is going to be stepping up as chair. So that'll be a good voice for primary RE. Secondary vice chair is Joanne Harris, and the primary vice chair is going to be Naomi Anstis, and Ben Wood, who's a secondary teacher, is going to be the outgoing chair and assistant to Katie. We're continuing to produce home learning and distance learning resources on the NATRA and RE Today website, and there are various points of information about the work we're doing with Good News for Everyone, who are formerly Gideons, and Anti-Racist RE, which we've touched on already in the meeting, so I won't go too far into that again. Art in Heaven competition, spirited arts competition is continuing to be very popular, and with lockdown and home learning taking place when classes are having to isolate and so on, lots of teachers are setting that work and finding that the pupils are getting a lot from it. Cullen St Gabriel's, can't say it, leadership programme is something for teachers to be aware of, and with regards to local news, I've been through the training and the Wokingham specific networks already, so I won't say anything more about that. The Inspiring RE conference is still set to go ahead on the 21st of April. Not sure how likely that's going to be, but Sarah Payne, who is the regional ambassador, is very keen for that to happen face to face. So when I get any updates on that, I will let everybody know what's happening. But it is good value in terms of it just being £60 per delegate. So we'll just have to wait and see if that is going to be a possibility, or whether that's going to move to online, or possibly into the summer or autumn term. We've been through the Pam Berkshire hub. There was, with regards to Nassaka, the only news there is that there was an EGM. I've sent the draft minutes for that to Emily, who will and they'll be emailed to members. There's nothing really of any significance to report to members tonight on that, and we've already mentioned that the AGM is going to be going ahead on the 24th of May, and that's going to be an online event. And Sacre members, there may be Sacre members who wish to attend that event, and I believe Emily said that we would be able to fund some places if any members are interested. Emily, if members are interested, would they email you?
Yeah, myself and or Catherine, just let us know and we'll book you places.
Yeah, and you'll get to see the West Hill presentation with the hub members there as well if you attend, and I think that's also going to be available as a recording as well. So that's it for the national and local updates. Thank you for bearing with me through that.
Thank you. Has anybody got any comments or questions for Angela? Just give a couple of seconds. No. So the final main item of this part of the meeting is development plan. We kind of touched on it very briefly. I don't know if there's any extra, Emily or Angela, you'd like to add.
So I think we have covered the main points. I think obviously we've got sort of standard work that we do every year in terms of the primary network meetings. But one thing we will need to consider is support for secondary schools, as we know that the Federation Inset Day isn't happening. And Angela's already suggested to me that she could perhaps, because the GCSE training she did was really positively received by the 4 people that were there, but obviously it'd be great to reach more secondary schools. So we felt that the summer term might be a better time to run it when there's no exam board training happening. So Angela's offered to run that again if we wanted to. But it would be good to think about support for secondary schools. And as we've already touched on, perhaps ideas for how Sacre could work with schools in a remote way in terms of members visiting schools or supporting schools. So, yeah, I think we'll obviously keep doing all our standard support for schools that we do, but it's whether people have got other ideas, and obviously people have already suggested a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Any other business before we go to part 2 confidential minutes? I'll just give everyone a couple of seconds if they just want to raise their hand. No. Okay, thank you. Okay, and the final item of this part of the meeting is just dates of the next meeting. So Catherine, I'm not sure if you have it, so I'll because I know you're on your phone, so I don't mind going through it quickly for you. So the current, so it's 14th of June, Monday the 14th of June is the next one, but it does say in the agenda, depending on Wokingham council meetings. So if there are any changes to that, we'll let you know as soon as possible. Then we've also got Monday the 8th of November for next year and Monday the 7th of March 2022. I'm assuming, and Emily, you'll be able to sort of jump in, Monday the 14th of June, will that be a virtual one still?
I would assume so. I mean, we could review it nearer the time, but I would think it was safest to plan for a remote meeting.
I think, yeah, it's probably, and given that they're sort of aiming for everyone to have their first vaccine by the end of July, it's probably safer that we stay apart, as much as I'd love for us all to be together. But hopefully the November meeting, we might be all together. We'll just have to, we'll play it by ear. And just the two, before we finish this part of the meeting, the two big takeaways I do want everyone to take away with them is, first of all, any ideas for how our money should be spent, please email Angela, Emily, Beth and myself by, let's say by next Monday, because that doesn't give Emily long to sort things out with the local authority and where that money's going to go. So please by next Monday is the big one. Callum, that's it. Thank you for your time. If do you want to stop recording and YouTubing this, because we're going to go to part 2 confidential minutes.